You're watching a clip from the Club podcast.
Make sure you follow it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and give it a 5-star review.
But big win for you?
Yeah, clean sheet. Phil Foden's back in form. He looks unbelievable. Scored 13 goals in the league this season.
Really good.
Lovely goal as well.
Oh.
Big goal as well. You know, to just settle the nerves.
14 minutes
Because also, he just picked the ball up and basically went, all right,
This is a goal.
see you later. Yeah. see you in a bit. I'm off.
I think the interesting narrative is about Newcastle now. I think they were at, I mean, this isn't to, be disrespectful to them because of what they've achieved this season so far, but they look really flat.
Yeah, they are.
Really poor.
He needs to find an answer, Eddie Howe. He needs to find the answer. Like, you can't constantly talk about the fact that the expectations have changed. Like, if I bring up that Eddie Howe needs to get this right, and the point of being a good manager is to find a way sometimes. It isn't necessarily always about philosophy or future or building or legacy. It's about here and now, find a way. You know the way Arteta has done recently? Just nothing else matters, secure the 3 points. Eddie Howe needs to get a win. He needs to sort his team out.
Back-to-back losses now in all
I
competitions.
think
can't
the
score,
performance
man.
wasn't
No, they
that
can't
bad
score.
though against City.
Who's that?
When City scored early against Newcastle, I did think, they're going to get battered 4 or 5 now.
Adam, it's the
And
same.
City had a lot of, Newcastle had a lot of
They had
chances.
3 chances that
Callum
should have
Wilson,
buried.
man.
you should put your foot on. We all could have put our foot on. It goes in.
I think Wilson's since the World Cup. I think Wilson's just been chronically out of form. I think he's a good player as well.
Yeah,
but
I do
been
too.
chronically out of form.
Yeah.
But do you know? It's the second time. Obviously, I've watched Newcastle now in consecutive weekends, and both times I've watched them, I appreciate that they're up against very good sides. But do you know what? There hasn't been ever when I've been watching Newcastle in the last 2 games any semblance of jeopardy that they're not going to lose. Like we watched them together last week against Manchester United. Manchester United were always going to win that cup.
Yeah.
I never felt. I know it will be different.
You know
for
what?
because you're there or
You know
whatever.
what? In the second half, I just saw he'd won.
Yeah, he's won a cup.
Yeah.
But I thought it before.
I
Shouldn't be that
watched
way.
it back and they had
Yeah.
a few chances and it felt squeaky watching it back.
Yeah.
But I never felt nervous during that second half.
No, but
They don't
I
have
would
the
say
squad
before
to
the game.
replenish. They don't have the squad yet. They
No,
will,
it's a
but they don't at the
It's a
moment.
little bit of a. When I was looking at their squad, when I was looking at their team on paper, like you look at the players that they had on the bench, it's like Isaac and St. Maximin. It's a good team,
Yeah.
and it should certainly, from the position that they were in, I think it's fair to say that if now Newcastle don't make top 4, at the beginning of the season it wouldn't be like this. But if Newcastle now don't make top 4, I think that's a slightly underwhelming season for them.
I think if they come 5th, they could. I don't think they will, by the way.
No,
maybe we can
I
do our
think they're gonna
predictions
free
later.
fall now.
But I think they could come 9th because I think the way I'd rather be a side coming from 9th, 10th up. I'd rather be with momentum at the end of the season. These lads, I mean, for me, the big one, if you sign, sometimes we forget all the money that's thrown around in football. If you sign someone like Anthony Gordon, it's not about a long-term vision. Sometimes you just need impact right then and there. He starts against City. Shocking.
Yeah, terrible.
Shocking. If you can't beat Kyle Walker, which that was his task, to beat Kyle Walker, and Mbappe couldn't do it in the World Cup, it's a tough task. I'm not saying...
No, but it's
At
about
least hold the
finding
ball.
a way.
At least hold the ball.
Exactly.
Be physical. Lay the ball off to the fullback. Whatever it is. But he tried every single time to beat him on the overlap, beat him with skill, and he lost the ball.
But
4 or
also,
5
you have
times.
to be intelligent, don't you? As a footballer, it's your responsibility, and maybe as a manager as well, you need to come up with an answer. Kyle Walker is very good at everything, but he's especially good at a battle of pace. So don't fight him on his home turf. Do something else.
Yeah.
Do something else. Like try and find the chink in the armour, which may not exist, but come up with it. And I'm quite pleased because I have a weird dislike. Generally footballers, looking at Fred, Andy Robertson, I don't really feel either way about them. Anthony Gordon, really don't like the way he conducted himself there. When he effectively went on strike, didn't he?
Yeah.
He effectively
Boyhood
went on
club.
strike when his boyhood club were in a relegation battle.
Yeah.
So I'm not impressed by him at all. But overall, I think that Newcastle now, is it fair to say, if they don't make top 4, it will be underwhelming and potentially Eddie Howe needs to take some responsibility for that.
I disagree. I know where you're coming from. It's not a crazy shout. Oh, wow.
But why not, Buvey? Because look, expectations change. Arsenal at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the
I
season,
know.
Arsenal would have said, "I will be really happy if we finish top 4." They would have bitten your hand off.
But you could argue they had the starting 11 and squad to do it with the experience. I still think Newcastle's starting 11 is nowhere near the Leicester City side that came 5th back-to-back seasons. I don't think it's anywhere near. They had Jamie Vardy scoring easy goals, 15, 20 goals a season. Someone like Maddison. season. This Newcastle side's still lacking a natural goal scorer consistently.
But wait, you've compared them to a Leicester team that I would say was very underwhelming, that they didn't finish in the top 4. They had it in the bag. I remember the second time, the second time they finished 5th. I remember when I was discussing it, we were all saying Leicester 3rd, like forget, like we've all got to get into the top 4 and we're all hoping to do it, whatever teams were hoping, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, whatever it was, and there's only one space available. What transpired was they dropped out and 2 of us, Chelsea and Tottenham, got in. Like, that was underwhelming. That was unacceptable from Brendan Rodgers.
I think Newcastle have to steady the ship, see a lot of positives at the back end of the season, because there will be an argument about Eddie Howe's time at Bournemouth, where, again, it started off very well. They came to the Premier League. They were hard to beat. People forget that. And then at the back end of his time at Bournemouth, I know they had bad injuries, unlucky. It's a different kind of club to Newcastle, but they were soft. They did run out of ideas. He's
very anti-football as well, isn't he? You know, the way that his team plays. When you think about the traditions of Newcastle United, they really do pride themselves on kind of free-flowing attacking football. And some of the players that they've idolised in the past, it will be Faustino Asprilla, David Ginola, Peter Beardsley, players that are gorgeous footballers, beautiful footballers on the eye. And this isn't that. Like, remember when Arteta went mad at Eddie Howe? He was actually justified. I was watching that game and I wanted Newcastle to get the point that they were after. Yeah. And even I was annoyed at the way Newcastle, when you're just like, time wasting, but just being anti-football. And I suppose it's a bit Simeone, who he's...
I don't think he's got many footballers in that team. I think the only footballer is Bruno Guimaraes.
Kieran Trippier's not a footballer. Kieran Trippier's not a footballer,
Kieran Trippier's one, of course.
Come on, Buvey,
but there's a couple. There's a couple.
Mate, they've got
Dan Burn at left back. They've got Dan Burn at left back. They've got Joe Linton in midfield. Joe Linton's touch goes backwards. That's how bad it is. They've got a lad up front in Callum Wilson's always injured. Almiron, I don't care about Almiron. I don't think he's all that. I think he's overrated. I think he's not a natural footballer.
This isn't true.
This isn't true.
I think
they do have the skills.
Do you think?
Close to being right though. I don't think this is a Newcastle squad that... I know context and your circumstances change throughout the season, but even when they were in 4th, I don't think I ever expected them to finish inside.
They were in 3rd.
If they get 3rd,
you're talking about the money machines. You're talking about Spurs.
That's an amazing season.
How did Spurs get 4th last season? It's because they know how to grind out point after point after point, and Tottenham did it last season.
Yeah, Tottenham did it last season because Arsenal capitulated.
But they've also got a squad keeper. They've got a Champions League squad. Newcastle don't have a Champions League squad yet.
Tottenham don't have a Champions League squad.
They've been in the Champions League 4 or 5 years out of the last 6.
You look through that Tottenham squad.
I'm not saying they're any good, by the way, but they're good enough for 4th.
That Tottenham squad, player for player, is less inspiring than the Newcastle squad.
No way.
100%.
Not for me. It's different now after...
You look at that back line. You look at that Newcastle back line.
So Son, Kane, Kulusevski up front. Eric Dyer's an England international. Lloris in goal. I don't even back.
You're just saying names. They're playing really badly.
No, but I'm giving you names that are better than Newcastle.
I could easily do the same, like just saying names.
I'll just give you 3 names.
Okay. You look at their back line.
Kane start for Newcastle.
Okay, Højbjerg,
Eric for Newcastle.
Højbjerg, Eric Dyer
starts for Newcastle. Yeah.
Wait, what? Sorry.
They all start for Newcastle. These lot.
Not in current form.
But I'm talking about last season, Kulusevski was unbelievable.
Last season, he was unbelievable, but it doesn't matter. Like 20 seasons ago, Gazza was wicked for them. It doesn't matter what he was doing last season. This season, his performances have been abysmal. And aside from a hat-trick against West Ham United, I think it was.
No, I'm not even saying this season. I know they lost the Wolves. I agree with you. What I'm trying to say is last season, Spurs, we agree, were dreadful, but they had the quality up front. Kulusevski was in good form then, I'm saying. I'm not saying now. Yeah. Son, etc., Kane. They were all able to grind out result after result.
But why do you think it's acceptable for Newcastle United to have spent so much money? It's all very well for us to talk about Eddie Howe doing very well, and of course he did. I like what he did. I like the way he improved. I like this intensity thing that he tries to instill in his players. I like Eddie Howe. I really do, and I think they should give him a bit of time. But they should not have spent a lot of money, mate. They really did.
You have to spend $1 billion. You have to spend $1 billion.
Mate, it's all very well going, Eddie Howe did well, and of course he did.
Yeah.
But mate, Nick Pope, Kieran Trippier, Sven Botman, Dan Burn,
Gordon's a waste of money.
Isaac, Gordon. This is off the top of my head. Like massive money, massive cash injections.
So where are they at? 200 million?
But so did Spurs. So did Liverpool.
Hang on, it's not 200 million.
What is it,
70 million was Isaac.
So what is it since the takeover?
I don't know.
January?
I don't know.
It's
Carol
250?
Vorderman is not my middle name, but the point, it doesn't. You don't need to do the maths on it. Like
No,
the
but I
point
think
is, they spent a
think you actually
fortune.
do.
They were
I think
in
you do,
third.
Royce.
You spent a fortune. They spent
Yeah.
a fortune. They were in third. They were playing very well. They weren't conceding goals, and it's gone wrong. They've been found out.
But Royce, they've spent 100. All right, let's just say they spent 200 million quid. Then let's just say it's that kind of number. They spent that on a side on top of the Mike
This
Ashley
season
side
so
that had no
far-
money.
This season so far, 185 million.
Yeah, see, so you were
On top
wrong.
of what? On top of a threadbare squad that was terrible. They've had to start from scratch. They nearly got relegated before the takeover. Spurs have been in and around Champions League football for 6 years. I'm not even saying Spurs are that good. I'm just saying Spurs are able to grind out top four for a reason.
Yeah, okay. Look,
That's what I'm saying.
I think we're kind of focusing on Tottenham for no real
As an example,
reason.
an ugly dross side that is still able to grind out top four every season.
That's the funny thing about you referring to Tottenham like that. That's like the worst way that you could talk about Tottenham to a Tottenham fan. But I just think that society.
Although they probably agree with you right now.
You know, with some,
terrible.
yeah, they would agree, but they would hate it as well.
But you put the money on them getting top four. That's what I'm
Booth,
trying to say.
you know when you know some teams you can go. I don't know. Maybe some managers and teams together they get a pass. So I feel like you're not holding Eddie Howe to the same standards that you would other managers. You're not holding Newcastle United to the same standard that you would other managers.
Yeah,
Like,
because two seasons ago, they nearly got relegated by Steve Bruce.
yeah, they spent 200 million quid since
You
then.
can't change it around. It took Man City in an era where you could make a case it was easier to spend more money when Newcastle being held by financial fair play more than Man City were. Yeah, Chelsea could go out and sign 11 players in the first takeover era as well.
Chelsea were in the Champions League. It's completely
Oh,
different.
fine. I'm not going to bring Chelsea into it. Man City were able to do it, and it still took us 2 years to get into the Champions League.
Yeah, it didn't take you.
We signed Tevez. He wasn't a Champions League player for 2 years. They've been a takeover club for a year. So they got another year to go. In my
Because it was a
opinion,
very different situation. Because at that time there was 4 places for the Champions League, and there were, as it was referred to in the press at the time, there was a
Has
big
he missed
four.
that?
There was a big four.
That's a
it was
huge
it was Chelsea, Arsenal,
Yeah.
Manchester United,
Yeah.
and Liverpool.
Yeah.
They were the big four. So for you to break into that was very difficult. Whereas now it's far more fluid. And this season in particular, where Newcastle are hoping to do it, Chelsea aren't even in the conversation. Just forget that they even exist. I'd say that Tottenham are there for the taking, but they're probably going to do it. You say Liverpool were there for the taking,
you're right
but I
about
think
that.
they're
You're
gonna
right
do
about
it.
the context of the season, 100%.
So the context of the season is relevant.
So we say City and Arsenal, they're guaranteed, of course. Man United are there because they spent a load of money. They've got £1 billion in the squad, and they're third where they should be. That's where they should be, in and around third, second,
But
third.
they should- but
So there's
Newcastle
one
should be
spot-
in the top
So you're
four.
saying there's one spot to go then? One
spot to go, deal.
So you got Spurs in there with whatever you say about Conte, he's one of the best managers in world football.
He's not there, and they're awful,
Yeah,
and they're losing
I
every
know,
other
but they're
week.
still in- they're still
losing
there
ev-
mathematically,
they're
that's what I'm trying to say.
They're losing
They're
every
terrible.
other week, and Newcastle aren't there to
Would
make
you
it
still
count.
expect Spurs to pick
That's
up
what I'm
more
trying to say.
points than Newcastle?
You give Kane an opportunity. He'll score 15 goals from now to the end of the season. They haven't got that, Newcastle.
He's the only player. You're literally focusing on the one player at
Well, no, I've
Tottenham
said
that is playing well.
Kulusevski, I've
No,
said
he's playing
Son.
badly though. You're saying.
I don't think-
you're saying players that are playing badly.
I'm not saying right now. I'm not saying they're playing good, but I'm trying to say that Spurs in the next 5 to 6
but
games can grind out results.
You're not
Son will
answering
find a
my.
bit of
You're not
form.
answering my question, because my question is that, like I said to you, Kane is the only player that can do it, and you went, well, Kulusevski, and I'm going, well, no, not Kulusevski, because he's dreadful.
I think he could do it. I'm trying in the running
Go on,
for top
Andy.
4.
Yeah,
You could put money on Son and Kulusevski having good seasons.
And my statement on this, and I'd love to know what people think at home, I think Newcastle not making sure that they're ahead of Tottenham, a Tottenham team that are losing games, by the way, a Tottenham team that are so vulnerable, a Tottenham team that are effectively a one-man team. I'm saying that Newcastle not making sure that they are above them. Bearing in mind that at one stage they had a significant cushion over them. They should have,
We don't
they
have
should
to-
have had
I think that's relevant if they finish outside of the European spots.
Yeah.
But if they finish outside of the top 4, I think that's still unfair.
They come 5th.
They shouldn't be finishing 4th.
If they come
I
10th,
disagree.
that's terrible.
No, but
But if they come 5th, that's good.
at the beginning, it's not
They
good.
nearly got
It's not
relegated
good
last
from where
season.
they were, though.
You know they nearly got relegated last
Yeah,
season.
of course, but
like if Arsenal finished
they're a
second
different
now, I don't
club
think
to
it's
they're
a
a
bad
different
thing.
club, mate.
But you can't
They're a
change a
different
club in a year. You can't change a club in a year.
They have. Look at the team. Look at the
But it
players.
takes another year on top of that to blend everyone in.
But you'll never
Took
have an
Tevez
easier
2 years
time.
at
You'll
City.
never have an easier time to finish in the top 4 than you will this season, because Chelsea aren't there.
You're saying
Chelsea will be there next
not to
season.
go, but I'm just saying you're saying it's easy, but we're agreeing there's only one spot to fight for. Spurs and Liverpool are still going to fight. It's not over yet. It's 13 games to
Liverpool
go.
have been in crisis.
Yeah,
And
but
Liverpool have been in crisis, and you think they're going to finish above Newcastle?
I think there's a good chance they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm saying it's underwhelming from Newcastle. I still kind of think Liverpool are going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm trying to say. All I'm trying to say is Newcastle competing with a side that nearly won a quadruple last season.
No, but you're
and
framing
Spurs that
it.
are a Champions League side for the last 7
You're
years.
framing it in a way. You're saying they nearly won a quadruple last season. Okay, but you've also spoken about them being in crisis way more recently than that. So they're a club that have been in crisis way more recently than the quadruple.
Where are
that you're
Newcastle
flagging.
going to finish?
Newcastle are going to finish 7th.
Yeah, they
I
are.
kind of agree. I think they're going 3-4.
Yeah.
And
I'd rather
when you
be-
said that, I looked at Brighton are 3 points behind them with a game in hand.
I'd rather be Brighton.
Brentford are 6 points
Brighton have
behind
got a
them
new
with
lease
a
of
game in hand.
life.